Tonight we have a very special guest speaker, JC Doss. He is a very inspirational member of our community. He's one of the lead organizers of Mantra House and the USC Music Meditation Club. And now he's also working together with some of the crew at the UCLA Bhakti Club. And one of the qualities that I really admire the most about him is that he always wants to improve. He has this tenacity to better himself. Because I guess I'm not really like that, so I really look up to him that he's always like that. After he finishes anything, he always asks how was it? What's your feedback? And I'm like, do you want the nice, you did great, or do you want the truth? And he always wants the truth, and then he listens, and he really takes into account constructive criticism, and he improves upon himself every time. So I really look up to him. So let's give him a round of applause.
Yeah, I just drank a lot of water, so I might pee in the middle of this talk. I just want to throw that out there. Okay. So yeah, it's really great to be here. I just want to shout out some of the musicians here. Steve on the guitar, that sounded really cool. My dream is hopefully one day getting DJ turntables and really rocking out with the kirtan. That'd be pretty amazing. And yeah, I'm just happy for everyone to be here at Mantra House. Pretty soon it's going to turn into a Mantra House party, and we have music and food and just a lot of fun. People often think when it comes to meditation, you got to be in a quiet space, you got to be alone, you got to be solo, you got to be in a cave, something like that. But actually, for us, we practice meditation through celebration, and so we like to come together. It's a philosophy called Bhakti Yoga, and I think you need both. You need that side as well, just to balance out the mind, but then you also need to associate with those who want to improve and want to constantly grow towards spiritual practices. So the talk today, it's titled Spiritual Courage. Last time I spoke, I was talking about encouragement, and I was trying to analyze this word, encouragement. And encouragement just basically means that you want to put courage in somebody. And so then I started trying to understand this word courage. What does this word courage really mean? And actually it comes from the Latin root courage. And courage literally means heart. That's where you also get words like corazon. Is there any Spanish speaking people in the house tonight? Yeah, what does corazon mean?
Heart.
Okay, there we go.
You can see it for my beloved, someone that you're in love with, you'll see mi corazon also.
Yeah, and then also cardiac or cardio, it all comes from courage, which comes from courage. And courage then literally means connecting with your heart and finding what it is that truly fulfills you from within. So we all need courage in life, and I guess there's just so many distractions these days that it's hard to connect to our heart. And so that's why this type of association helps out in truly going for our goals. And there's this term in business, it's called high risk, high reward. Does anybody know what high risk, high reward is? Could you maybe explain what high risk, high reward is?
I don't know how to explain it. I guess the more you not give in, but the more you sacrifice type of thing, the more you'll get out of it.
Yeah, that's exactly right. And so there's some practical examples in business, maybe 20, 30 years ago, when Apple or Windows was first starting, and you wanted to invest some money into that, but then a lot of people said, no, don't do it. You never know what it's going to be like. So it's a high risk. But you did invest into it. And now, 20, 30 years later, you can see there's a high reward because so many people backed out and you went forward and jumped in. There was a great reward system that was created. And so that may be true for business, high risk, high reward, but then you can also see it on a practical sense, on a practical level. Like the other day, I was stuck in our very famous LA traffic, and the cars were literally bumper to bumper, and we were probably moving a foot every 5 minutes, something like that. It was crazy. And then all of a sudden, I see this motorcycle just zoom past all these cars, and it probably passed like 500 cars and then took its exit. And I was thinking to myself, that's a high risk, high reward. That it's kind of risky having a motorcycle. It can be dangerous, you can get into an accident, but in a situation like that, there's a real high reward that's taking place. And then another high risk, high reward I think about is what I do every single morning is cold showers. It's definitely a high risk. I mean, I was mentioning at UCLA, like I gotta really prepare myself. I'm like meditating for a few minutes. I'm like trying to talk to myself, like let's do this. And yeah, you can get sick, etc., etc. But you jump in and you feel that high reward. It's like an exhilarating experience, and it boosts your immune system, everything, and there's a high reward that goes along with it. So what else is a high risk, high reward? And I was thinking, to be a spiritualist, or to be spiritual, is a high risk, high reward. Because when you're spiritual, you tend to turn away from a lot of the material activities that most people are engaged in. Most people are out there having so much fun, and you actually risk yourself in not participating in that, and because you think that there might be a high reward as an outcome. And to be spiritual is much more than maybe doing yoga on the weekends, or meditating a few minutes every single morning, or even popping LSD or shrooms, and then you say, oh, I'm spiritual. But it's actually much deeper than that. According to the yoga system, it's called the Astanga yoga system. Asta means 8. So there's 8 limbs to the yoga system, and they're Yama, Niyama, Asana, Pranayama, Pratyahara, Dharana, Dhyana, and Samadhi. These are the different levels. And you're actually supposed to go through them one by one. But a lot of times, we start off in Asana, which is like the Hatha Yoga, the physical postures. Or we start off in Pranayama. And we don't actually go through the full first 2, which is Yama and Niyama. So what is Yama and Niyama? Does anybody know here? Okay, so Yama and Niyama are basically the spiritual do's and do nots to life. And when you hear about rules, like do's and do nots, it seems like, oh man, like I don't want to limit my freedom. I don't want to follow these rules. I want to be free. I want to do what I can. I just want to be a bird. But I see it in this type of context. When you're driving down the freeway or down the street, you have guardrails. And those guardrails are not there to limit your freedom, but they're there to protect your freedom. So in the same way, with these spiritual do's and do nots, it's not that it's limiting your freedom, but it's actually protecting your freedom. It's actually helping you advance and become more free in life. So I was gonna talk a little bit about these different rules. According to the yoga text, there's a verse in Sanskrit, and it's padam padam yad vipadam. Padam padam, that means step by step. Yad vipadam. Vipadam means danger. So the yoga texts say that there's danger at every step in this material world. And you might think like, no, it's not that bad. It's pretty good. This reminds me of a story. Every morning I take a morning walk to the top of a hill. And a few months ago, I was really in this fitness type of mode. I wanted to exercise and really get healthy, really get in shape. And when I leave to take that morning walk, it's completely dark outside. And then when I'm coming back, I kind of want to check my progress. I want to see how I'm doing. So there's these cars that have windows, and you can see your reflection in the window. So, you know, I kind of like lift my shirt and I'm like, okay, do I got a 2-pack? Is that 3-pack coming? Like, where am I at right now? And one time I went and I came back and I was feeling really good. So I was like, all right, let's see what's happening. So I lift my shirt and there's somebody in the car. And it wasn't just somebody in the car, it was like a gangster. So I'm like going like that, and he's like, what's up, homie? And then he's lifting his shirt, and there's like tattoos all over. And I'm thinking about this verse, danger at every step. I just dash it. So it's everywhere. So we'll talk about what are these spiritual do's and do nots briefly. So the first one that the yoga texts recommend that we try to stay away from, that we try to limit, is not to eat any meat or animal products. And then we'll talk about why. So meat is actually labeled under a group 1 carcinogen. And carcinogen, if you break that word apart, carcina means cancer, literally. And gen means to give birth to. Just like you have genes or generation, that's where the word stems from. So carcinogen literally means give birth to cancer. And group 1 carcinogens also include alcohol and cigarettes. And I think it's funny how they have 18 or over rules on cigarettes and 21 or over rules on alcohol. But if meat is a group 1 carcinogen, why is it being fed to the children? Shouldn't there be some rules there also? So this is something that the yoga texts are recommending. And this is just on a physical level. They say that it causes 1/4 of the deaths every single year. But now if we go into the spiritual level of why we shouldn't eat meat according to the yoga text, the word meat in Sanskrit literally translates to mamsa. And mamsa means me, you. And what that is saying is that in this life, I'm going to eat you, so next life you can eat me. It's like a contract. And they also say you are what you eat. So if you're eating beef, then you start to want to have beef with other people. You get a little angry. And if you're eating chicken, you start to feel like a chicken. You have all this fear, you have all this anxiety in you. And if you eat fish, then you become really selfish, and you smell like a fish. So it's really true. It's you are what you eat. So let's be like broccoli. or whatever it may be. And then the second rule, which is kind of easy if we think about it, but at the same time it's not. They recommend that we don't gamble. No type of gambling. And gambling is not just going to Las Vegas and rolling the dice, whatever it may be, but it's deeper than that. Gambling is what fuels greed. You're very greedy to want more and more. And it's a real addiction, actually, in the world. People are very greedy for certain things. If you analyze nature, nature is actually perfect. It's self-sustaining. Everything is just working in harmony. It's when you add the human into the equation that you have all this chaos, all these problems. And why is that? It's because the human has a quality that the animals don't have, and that's greed. Even this example is given that if there's a bag of rice that gets spilled all over the floor, the pigeons will come and they'll only take what they need and then they'll continue on. But if two humans came, they'll actually start fighting over the rice and they'll start accumulating more than they need. It could even lead to death. So humans are very greedy by nature. So to curb this greediness, it recommends that we don't gamble. And gambling also means that we don't speculate so much. We don't try to guess so much. But rather, why not just follow some of the laws of nature that really spell out how this world is operating? Some of the laws in the yoga text that really help us understand life at a deeper level. Then you don't have to guess so much. Then you don't have to be in the mind so much, be on the mental plane. So that's why they say no gambling. So we got 2 down, 2 to go. No meat, no gambling. The third one it recommends is no intoxications. And even if you look at this word, intoxication, it just means you're taking toxic in. So if you're taking toxic into your body, how can we be balanced? How can we be more focused? So that's why the yoga texts say eventually you want to come off that. A lot of people say, well, you know, when I smoke, I get spiritual, I have these visions, etc. My understanding and the way I've always answered this question is that the school systems have us programmed so much that people smoke weed just to deprogram from the programming. And then it's almost like a medicine. They call it a medicine. It's medicinal. But just like medicine, once you're cured, why then would you keep taking it? Then that's a problem. Then you are overdosing, or you're addicted at that point. So once we're healed as a medicine, then we can progress. But there's other ways, there's other alternatives to not even get into these things. So that's why it recommends to kind of tune away from intoxications. So I'll just do like a little pop quiz. Who can tell me the 3 out of the 4 do nots to spiritual life so far? Yes?
Her or
You?
me?
Did you say meat?
No.
Oh. Okay.
Do you want me to continue?
Yeah, you can say one more.
Gambling.
Okay, meat and gambling. What about the third one? Intoxication. Okay, you guys are very attentive class. Very good. And the fourth one is probably the hardest one, and I'll try to explain it. But they say that we should step away from lust as much as possible. And why do they say that? Well, there's a real problem going on in society right now. The things that we see in the media, the way women are portrayed, especially in music videos or movies or TV shows, the guys then start to subjugate the women, and they don't have true respect for women anymore. They see them as objects rather than actual beings, and even vice versa. So relationships are being taken for granted in this day and time, and we can literally see that with the divorce rates in Western societies. Actually, even now all over the world, it's over 50%. And so I think we need to slow things down a little bit and take things more slower, really get to know the person, and have that heart-to-heart, soul-to-soul connection, rather than just lusting over somebody. They say that the secret to a successful, happy relationship is that when there's man and woman, woman and man, or even man and man, or woman and woman, I just gotta say that to be politically correct. The way that it's set up right now, I'm with you so you can please me, and you're with me so I can please you. But that's born to fail. Instead, you got to bring a higher principle into the mix. So what you put is spirituality into the center, or the divine into the center. And now it's not all about just me and you, but I'm with you so I can help you further your spirituality and further your service to the world. And you're with me so you can help me grow and further my service to the divine. If we have this into the center, then we can be truly successful in relationships, and we will be following all the spiritual do-nots to life. So that's called Yama, and that's the first out of the Astanga. Yama, Niyama, Asana, Pranayama, Pratyahara, Dharana, Dhyana, Samadhi. So Yama is the do-nots. So what is Yama? Can anybody say? The do's, okay. So the do's are actually really fun, and they're really easy to do. The first thing that they recommend is just listening to spiritual sounds. That's all you gotta do. Just listen to spiritual sounds. And spiritual sounds come in two forms. So you can hear spiritual sounds through music, just like what we were doing, or you can hear them through lectures. Even if you go on YouTube, there's so many different talks that if you just play throughout the day, it really uplifts your consciousness, makes you feel good. I think we should surround ourselves more and more with this type of lifestyle. So listening to spiritual music, listening to spiritual lectures, you will be following the niyamas. And the second thing that it recommends is just associating with like-minded individuals who want to be on this path, who want to further progress in life. So this is basically how we can succeed in spiritual life. And just to quickly recap what I talked about how courage comes from the word courage, which means to connect with your heart. And there's different high risks and high rewards in this world. And to be spiritual is a high risk, but it comes with a really high reward. You might not be hanging out with the old friends that you used to. You might see their Instagram photos, they're dancing in the club, and you're thinking, man, what am I doing with my life? But just hang in there. It gets much better. And then we talked about the Astanga yoga system. We talked about how there's danger at every step. And that's why we have the do's and do nots, because it doesn't limit our freedom, but it protects our freedom. And we truly become fearless. And so quickly the 4 do nots was to stay away from meat, stay away from intoxication, stay away from greed, and stay away from lust. And all you have to do is just fill your life up with more spiritual music, more spiritual lectures, and associate with more spiritual people. And like that, we can build spiritual courage. Our mind, body, soul will nourish. And in life, we can truly flourish. Thank you very much.